Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're going to learn about artist Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe was born in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and spent a lot of time alone and loved the outdoors. She knew early on she wanted to be an artist when she grew up. She studied at schools in Chicago and New York and lived some time in New York and made some beautiful art while she was there. Eventually, Georgia would find her way to New Mexico, where she fell in love with the desert landscape. She purchased a property there known as Ghost Ranch, where she stayed the entire fall and winter. There, she loved painting the sun bleached animal bones that she would collect on her walks around the ranch grounds. Here's a quote that says, "To me, the best place in the world, O'Keeffe, at 94 years old, said of Ghost Ranch, it's always been secluded and solitary." So let's be inspired by these amazing works of art, and we're going to create our very own Georgia O'Keeffe animal bone art. So let's get started. All right, so here's an example of what it looks like, a print of hers. She has the animal bones, and she often would mix in some sort of flowers. Now, these, believe it or not, were actually fake flowers, and she would combine that sense of tradition that Mexicans had in making their arranging their graves. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to be taking a look at those animal bones, and we're going to make our animal bones using a unique method. So you need your materials, which are a blank piece of paper, maybe one, maybe two, some sort of background paper, and a writing implement, something to draw with, whether it be crayon, whether it be marker, whatever you're using. And then at the end, I'm going to show you how to create one of those flowers using the basic material, a tissue. And I'm going to use a twist tie, but you could use an elastic, you could use string, you can use just about anything you can find that will fasten together. So those are the materials. Let's begin. All right, so I told you I'd teach you a unique trick on how to create this animal bone skull. So you can tell this was probably like an ox at one time, or bison or something big. And we're going to fold our paper the long ways in half as such. And while it's in half, on the fold, so here's the fold, here's where it opens, I'm going to simply write my name really light pencil. I'm just going to write Mrs. Grace. You're going to write your name. If you want to write in cursive, you can. It really doesn't matter. Once you're done writing your name, now we're going to cut in a loose way, kind of organic shapes around your name. So watch how I create mine. It's going to start around the letters, back in, and around at the top and back over. So that when I open it up, I have the resemblance of a skull. So now what I'm going to do is, once I have my skull shape, it's sometimes helpful to have a background paper so you can kind of think about what that will look like. I'm going to use the scraps of my paper to create the horns that you saw in the original piece. So you can see how there's this kind of a triangle shape. So I'm just going to keep my paper together and cut those horns like this. So now I have two. So one cut gave me two horns. Great. So now we're going to add some of those details. You could glue it down. I like to sometimes play around with the arrangement and see where I'm going to end up with my flowers. So I will wait till the end, but of course, whatever works for you. Now we're going to make those just a few details that will give it that realistic look. I can use brown, I can use black. I'm just going to create the midline that goes all the way down the skull. Notice how it kind of gets a little broken apart over here. And then the bottom you can't really see because it's hidden behind that flower, which you're welcome to do as well. Or if you want to, you can kind of create your own. So I'm just making some basic shapes. So if you're looking to create some really basic shapes, we're looking at eyes, and we're looking at some kind of like cheekbones and kind of those nostrils. If you want to get specific about your shapes, you can. So think about where you want to put your eyes. Maybe there's that cheek line as such, and that works pretty well. So I might just highlight some of those areas just by now. I've got them in there and I can add some depth. Again, remember Georgia used shading a lot of times in her artwork to create those illusions of depth. Now, of course, she was using paint and other materials, but we can work with whatever materials we have to create the same type of illusion. Here we go, adding some bone line there, some of those, and maybe even some on the, if you want to trace your skull out with a little bit, maybe not all of it, maybe parts of it, give it some, there we go. All right, looking good. So now that I have my skull, I have the horns. Now I'm thinking about adding those kind of famous and unique flowers. So I told you I was going to be using nothing but a tissue to do that. So, and a twist tie. So let me share with you how to do that right now. I'm going to fold the tissue in half, and it will help you if you just cut right along. There's usually a fold in the tissue as it is. So I'm just going to cut right along that line. So it's 2 long rectangles. Now I'm just going to take and fold like an accordion, forward, backward, flip and fold forward, flip and fold backward, till I get all the way to the end of my rectangle. Now that I'm at the end, you simply pinch it in the middle. You add that twist tie for securing. I'm just going to bend it and twist. So if you have something like a pipe cleaner, you can use elastic, you can use string. Now you're simply going to just take it and kind of fluff it out and separate all the pieces of tissue. You could do the same with tissue paper, of course, but since we're at home, we're going to make use of what we have around us, and tissues probably are a little more common. Okay, so I'm just pulling all of these individual pieces and kind of fluffing them right out. Not pulling too hard because I don't want to tear. And you just pinch again in the middle and you have your very own tissue rose. So now I can decide I have one at the top, one at the bottom, and kind of looks like my original artwork here. And you can create whatever you want for a design in the background. So if you wanted to use paper that you have handy, if you want to use blank paper, I had some painted paper. Maybe you want to add some details in the background. Maybe you want to make it a sunset background that reminds you of that New Mexico area. You can make it any way you choose. Hope you enjoyed creating art like Georgia O'Keeffe.